666.
So I wanted to make that a little mini one big thing. But my real one big thing this week is let's do a little bit of an update on LIV Golf. Richard, as you know, we broke a very important streak with episode 60 last week. It was a very sad moment. We did not mention the word golf. So our episode counter, which is like one of those accident counters you'd see at a construction site, gets reset to 1. We've got a streak of 1 episode now in a row where we've mentioned LIV Golf. Let's reset it properly by talking a little bit about what's going on with LIV Golf and sort of the latest there. First, a little positive movement for LIV on its quest to get world golf ranking points. Because LIV is a startup circuit, players do not receive OWGR, official world golf ranking points. So players that have joined LIV in its first 5 events have a much reduced chance of qualifying for majors without previously earned exemption. So if you joined LIV, you're not getting these points, which you can use to play in the British Open or the Masters. And so even if you have a very strong negative opinion about LIV Golf, you probably have to objectively say that this is not really fair. I mean, 12 of the top 50 players in the world are playing with LIV Golf now. So even if you don't like it, it's sort of detrimental to these majors and the watchability of those majors if you're just not including Cameron Smith, the number 3 player in the world, Dustin Johnson, and so on. CEO and commissioner of LIV Golf, Greg Norman, the Shark, has become increasingly frustrated with this. He wrote in a letter to LIV golfers on August 17th, about 2 months ago, that the circuit, quote, by any fair, objective, and impartial review should be awarded world ranking points for its events in the very near future, which has not happened yet. Looks like they're getting a little traction, though, a little creativity and diligence from Norman. LIV golfers may soon get these points thanks to a strategic alliance with the little-known MENA Tour, MENA, Middle East North Africa Tour, which is a feeder circuit, but is recognized by the OWGR. It's not a done deal yet, according to Golf Digest about 90 minutes ago, Richard. The OWGR, quote, acknowledged receipt of communication from MENA outlining changes to its membership structure and said it will begin the review process on its changes. But the ranking organization said that LIV is still not eligible for points this week or next week at its next event in Jeddah. Richard, I guess my point here, there's kind of get a little bit of update on LIV, but this is kind of LIV Golf's time to shine. PGA is finished. Their season is over. LIV Golf keeps going on. It's going to be in the Philippines this weekend?
I thought it was Bangkok. But
Bangkok.
maybe,
Okay, sorry. Yeah. It's going to be in Bangkok this weekend and then goes to Jeddah next. So even if they don't get those points, if you're a fan of golf, this is exactly why LIV Golf can add value, because there's going to be golf on TV, or maybe not TV yet, YouTube TV, but there's going to be golf for you to watch and follow in the off season instead of having 3 or 4 months here where nothing happens. It's also a really good chance for LIV to expand the game to these new destinations. Obviously, Saudi Arabia, they're just sort of building interest in the game. Bangkok. LIV is a global tour, whereas the PGA is mostly played in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So there is that value add there. Golf is something I think maybe some don't want us to talk about all the time on this podcast, which I understand. We talk about it, Richard, because we don't get to play it very much. So it's a nice little outlet for us. But yeah, just a little update on what's going on with LIV.
Well, it gets a lot of news. So it is, it's definitely worthy of conversation. This official world golf ranking is a big thing. And this is because 3 of the 4 men's majors use that world ranking as a criteria for entry into their fields. Masters takes the top 50, US Open takes the top 60, Open Championships top 50. PGA has a little different formula. And it's disconcerting if you've gone to the LIV tour for whatever reasons to see that. So for example, just since June, in terms of that OWGR ranking, a guy like Phil Mickelson has dropped 62 points, 62 levels. Ian Poulter, 37, Sergio Garcia, 24, even Dustin Johnson, 8, Brooks Koepka, 12, so it's a significant concern and possible detriment if you're thinking about the LIV tournament. So I can understand why the PGA doesn't want any part of this, because it's, they can hang that over the head of someone who's thinking of, and I hate the term defecting. I think that's one of those sneaky terms because that's what everyone uses. XXX player defects to live. BS. They've chosen to go there to play their sport. So it's a matter of choice. And you said 12 of the top 50. They have 26 of the top 100. So it's a real deal. And this has happened in roughly a year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a titanic struggle, really. Titanic because the LIV clearly identified some deficiencies in the PGA's approach, by offering higher purses, smaller fields, and so on, no cut, and the PGA, to its credit, I guess, has responded, really aggressively. It's upped its purses. It has all these boutique now, has increased it, it changed its calendar, has boutique tournaments now. So this is, and there's also a lawsuit right now. There's a significant lawsuit that LIV brought against the PGA, and has, I think, initially had 10 golfers who were part of it. Now it's down to 3. If this happens, if that official world golf ranking is available through the MENA Tour to LIV Tour members, it will eliminate, I think, in some ways, that golf, that dispute, that legal dispute. Obviously, it won't eliminate the tension and the conflict and the arguments, but I would think, if I'm from the PGA perspective, if a player can go to LIV and still earn OWGR points, that's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why, just for the simple economics of it. There's a little breakdown of winnings per hole. So the LIV Golf tournament in London that Charles Schwartzel won in June, his winnings per hole were just under $75,000. Scotty Scheffler, who won the Masters, his winnings per hole were $37,500. More important, the sort of local turn, not non-major, RBC, for example, Royal Bank of Canada, Canadian Open, won by Roy McIlroy, $21,600 per hole. Just as a point of comparison, just this year, 2022 earnings rankings, Dustin Johnson has individual earnings are $9,750,000. His team earnings, as we know, we've talked about this, every tournament has a team concept, which is kind of neat, $3 million. So that's 5 tournaments. He's made over $12 million. And this has nothing to do with how much he was paid just to come over to the tour. But, let's take Dustin Johnson aside. Sam Horsfield. You know who Sam Horsfield is?
I do, but I'm kind of a nerd. Yes, I do.
You do know Sam?
I do.
All right, let me find another one.
We have a lot of we keep golf on the background on the TV here.
Oh,
it's like a nice thing.
Sam Horsfield. All right, how about Peter Uihlein?
Peter Uihlein, I don't know. There you go.
He's made $4.5 million on the LIV Tour. How about Anwar Ben Lahiri?
No.
He's made over $2 million. This is 5 tournaments, So how about Jason Kokrak?
Oh, Jason Kokrak, I know.
Kokrak.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's big.
He's a big hitter. Yeah.
He's an amateur. Yeah, that's a big can. That was a big get. But anyway, how about Flashera Kongwantami?
You got me there.
Over $1 million in 5 tournaments. Anyway, you see where we're going with this. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this MENA Tour link up would be consequential and might also deconflict in terms of the suit right now. I gotta think it'd make LIV even more attractive. But speaking of changes, one of the problems with OWGR points is they're based on how many players in the field, the rankings of the players in the field, if you make the cut and your final finish. And so it's difficult with the 54-hole format with no cut. Do you know what I mean? So, mm-hmm. So LIV may actually make some adjustments in order to qualify and fit closer to the OWGR requirements. But in any case, it's, as I said earlier, it's a titanic struggle, and it's really interesting to see the two parties go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Live and you're organizing these tournaments and you're sort of the brains behind it, you're thinking, well, look, like we're going to try a bunch of new stuff, and we're sure not all of it's going to work out, but there's a chance that we just one of these things was really cool and people really liked it and it became our signature thing of Live, and that there isn't one of those things yet. Right now, it's just money. But if you think about it, and you're a player, like you just said, and you noted a bunch of players none of us have ever heard of that are now getting big paydays on Live, and it's like, golfers, especially professional golfers, there is no guarantee. It's already a sport with a tremendous amount of luck. I mean, rim outs of putts and bad lies, and you can go on and on with this. But to be a really successful golfer on the PGA Tour, you got to have some luck, and you'd rather be lucky than good. And in golf, if you get injured or you throw out your back or something happens, you're not guaranteed a payday in the same way like you are in major team sports in the United States. You go down with a knee injury in football, you get your salary for the rest of the year. Somebody else might take your spot. That might be the beginning of the end of your career. You may get traded, but like you're guaranteed what you're guaranteed pretty much, as long as you're on the team and you try to get better. With golfers, you break a wrist, you fall down, you get in a car accident, you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from. So for golfers, for the players themselves, I mean, it's not just big paydays, it's guaranteed paydays. And those are very attractive when the future is uncertain for all of us. So there's that. But Richard, I thought that was really, really interesting though, because it's like what you were talking about really kind of made it clear. It's like they're just trying to find a way to fit into the whole conversation about like what is golf and where these points go. And obviously, if you're the PGA Tour, you've mishandled this really from the beginning. But now you're dealing with, well, if these golfers get these points, then Live is here to stay, and it's really official because they will be playing in all of these major events except for the PGA. So, I mean, Live is in a good spot right now, definitely.
Well, I think that as we've said a couple times, I'm just glad to see it going on, and we're past the sort of Phil Mickelson debacle at the beginning, and remember in the onset it was all talk and conjecture, and now it's real, and you can deal with it, and people can adjust. From my perspective, none of these guys are particularly attractive. I mean, I have sympathy for guys on struggling on a Nike tour to trying to make it or a qualifying tour trying to make it, but if you're on the circuit and you're playing golf and you're making, say you're a top 100 guy and you're making on the PGA through endorsements and prize winnings, upwards of $1 million at the bottom. And the hardship is to practice hard and work at your craft and play maybe 22 golf tournaments a year. I understand the stress and that sort of thing. But I don't think any of these guys are sympathetic characters. I do think they have the right to go play at Live if they want to. And I do think it's telling. We've talked about PGA's reaction essentially confirmed and affirmed everything that Liv was pointing out, was that you're leaving a lot on the table in terms of your talent. You're not paying them enough. Your fields are too big. The calendar is wonky. And it's clear that the PGA was, as we've talked about, and if you're a longtime PGA player and all of a sudden you see all this money, you're going, well, where was that? I mean, clearly Liv was right. You were withholding. So anyway, but back to the beginning, I don't necessarily know that it's sympathetic. I think it's a fascinating story. I think it's a big play. I think it's really interesting from Saudi Arabia's perspective because they get a lot of negative press about this, but they forge ahead. And I also think it's interesting. There was a recent article in The Athletic it's the first part of a part 3 series on the Newcastle acquisition, Newcastle Football Club. And it talks about how extraordinarily well run it has been. And all these concerns about the Saudis coming in and doing this and that, and when you dig down into it, has been really well run, and a little significantly more below the radar than the Live experience. So you have two different sort of approaches. But anyway, I think it's all fascinating, and I think it's newsworthy.
Great point. Big winner in all of this is Golf Digest, golf.com, all of these golf publications, all the Instagram accounts that are just ginning up.
And of course, 966 listeners.
Oh, the 966 listeners are the biggest winners of them all because they get to listen to us every week and talk about golf, which is funny. Just last little thing to add to this. I got a lot of people when I was in Riyadh last week sort of saying, oh, like, you know, you've heard about LIV Golf, you know, because they're sick of it. They're not golf fans yet. All they know is they're getting a lot of heat from all sides on this. And it's just kind of funny because I'm like, yeah, I am. So anyway, interesting stuff.